talk a little bit about your piece about Elon Musk, because you have a really fascinating theory about why Elon Musk is approaching things as sort of like recklessly as he is with the self-driving cars. And it has to do with sort of like the way that, I guess, regulation and society responds to facts on the ground in some way.
Yeah, exactly. And so Elon Musk's Tesla, they have cars out there on the road right now that are effectively doing beta tests of their autonomous driving software. There's a couple different kinds of it. There's the kind that's basically just sort of highway assist, like stay in your lane and stuff. But they market something called full self-driving, which is not that. it's actually shouldn't be labeled that. But they were allowing some of their drivers to play around with these things on city streets. And if you go, you can find videos, usually people, Tesla owners, so therefore Tesla enthusiasts, take these videos of them testing out self-driving in their cities. And it sucks. It like Michael Balaban, a CNN reporter, did a video here in Brooklyn. And every few blocks while driving, he had to seize the wheel from the computer because it was trying to drive into traffic, or it was ignoring a red light, or it was trying to hit a pedestrian, like just very basic things that something that is driving a car in a city should be able to handle. So, along with those videos and the existence of this full self-driving beta, there was these stories in the Times the other week about how he would ignore safety suggestions made by regulators and ignore safety suggestions made by his own engineers, Elon Musk would. And they had said he was just trying to rush the stuff to market, basically, before it was ready. And then there was another story a few days later about how now, thanks to a software update, without telling anyone, in a moving Tesla, you can use the touch screen, which is on your dashboard. You can use it to play video games. And Elon Musk has done interviews where he says things like, well, in the future, it'll be great because everyone will be able to watch movies and do entertainment and play video games while the car drives itself. So he's saying that stuff about an idealized future, but he's allowing it to happen now in reality. And other car manufacturers, first of all, the people who are into autonomous driving, the engineers and the industry, are a lot more realistic now about the timeline for actual full self-driving that you can trust in all situations. They're a lot more realistic that it's years further away than they have been promising for the last few years. But other car manufacturers still have a lot of these features, and a lot of them are great for safety, like automatic braking and things like that. But they're not, as I say, they're not acting the same way. And I think it's because these other manufacturers are real car manufacturers with years of experience dealing with safety regulators in Europe and the United States. And they are used to being regulated heavily to make their vehicles safer. And Musk comes at it from this world of big tech, basically, where the model is to ignore existing regulators, get into the market, establish yourself as, all right, now we are here, now we are operating, and now everyone else will have to shift the way that they do things to accommodate us and our new status quo that we've created. And I think
that's the story of like Uber, for instance, right?
Exactly.
It comes in, it completely ignores regulations and essentially forces reality. I mean, this is sort of like what the Bush administration was also talking about too, right? You guys are in the reality-based community. We make our reality type of situation, which sometimes works and sometimes doesn't. I mean,
yeah. I mean, it's a bet, right? And I think, I mean, I'm a little appalled that, the federal safety regulators are letting this happen. They are looking into the fact that autonomous driven Ubers have killed Teslas. I mean, have killed a dozen people already. But it's a bet, and you can see in some sense like it could pay off. Like I don't know why New York Department of Transportation is not doing anything to regulate these features. I don't know why the California DMV, which has the authority to regulate these features, I don't know why they're not doing anything to do it. People are just kind of letting it happen.
But tell them what the end game is. Sorry. Tell them what the end game is for. I mean, it's one thing for the regulators to not do anything, but it's another, like, what's the end game? I mean, if you keep killing people, what's the end game?
Yeah, so I drew on the sort of history of cars in the city. A historian named Peter Norton has a book called Fighting Traffic, which is a great history of how the car took over the American city. And what happened was when the car was introduced, because it was very quickly the most dangerous thing on the road, it was killing thousands and thousands of people. And in killing thousands and thousands of people, it was causing a mass uproar. People were fighting the encroaching of the car on the city, right? And pedestrian deaths were huge scandals. Newspapers would report on them. And they were always treated as the driver's fault. They were not, but the auto industry, with help from friendly voices in the press and with help from friendly people in the government, organized and invented something called jaywalking and used, the power of the police and the power of the media and all these other things to sort of say, oh, no. I know that you have always treated the road as someplace you can just walk wherever you like, but it turns out you were wrong. Where pedestrians belong is here at these corners where we have put signals here and said, this is the only time you're allowed in the road. That worked, obviously. And the autonomous driving version of that is saying, well, look, if his cars if his cars are going around cities, running into buses, running into houses, and killing children, killing pedestrians, if they're doing that, people will be outraged. They will stop Tesla. They will say, don't do this. But what if you knew that general history of the automobile? Then all of a sudden what you're doing is you say, well, how do we reorient the streets to make them safe for these cars? And you can see, a couple of years ago, there were non-Elon Musk autonomous driving engineers and people who are in the industry would be quoted in news stories offhandedly suggesting something like, maybe we could put gates at the crosswalk. So we've moved from like moving the pedestrian to the crosswalk to like, okay, now we're just going to wall them off. And I think to build the kind of future Musk wants, which is basically like the streets belong to people being chauffeured by robots. He's going to want to have to build that kind of thing, right? Like that's kind of what his dream is.
It seems to me like a long shot bet, because that's going to.
Well, he also it is a long shot, right? But like he also does genuinely think he's going to have factories on Mars, like within his lifetime.
Right.
I think that's a deeply silly thing to think is close to happening. But when you have lost as rarely as he has, and you have more money than God, you can convince yourself of a lot of things.
And again, that is like just another example of like sometimes we as just sort of frankly normal people can underestimate the delusion and the myopia of people who are overlords in this world.
Mm-hmm. And also I just wanted to, like, you brought up the Uber point, Sam. What Musk and a lot of these tech guys rely on is the fact that while tech is now spreading into industries like automobiles or with Uber rideshare, they identify as a tech company, so they don't have to answer to a lot of, we cover this a bit, the regulations and the oversight.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And that's going to be something we see a lot more happen a lot more frequently as tech begins to dominate, right? They are skirting around traditional modes of regulation because they also have an in and they look sexy as the new tech company, and it's like a new frontier. So it allows for it's a rife environment for exploitation.
Yeah, and that's right, because what these companies are not in they're not in the boring old business that they're disrupting, even though they are, right? Like Uber was a taxi company, but oh no, it's a tech startup, and Tesla's not boring old GM. It's like an incredibly cool, sexy startup, and that helps give them a sort of sheen that I think, in a PR sense and a political sense, shields them from scrutiny that they would otherwise get, right? Like there are a lot of normal people who think Elon Musk is a cool hero and that his car company is doing cool things. And that's sort of the extent of their engagement with it. And then, that kind of stuff seduces a lot of elected Democrats as well.
Folks can read that piece along with a bunch of other great writing at a place called the AP Substack. Still waiting for your lawsuit against the...
Yeah, I'm talking to my lawyers. We're drafting something.